Hi, and welcome to my studio. This video is for my friends out there who want to start painting but simply don't know where to start. And for my friends who are already painting, perhaps some of these new materials that I'm going to show you will help with your practice. So to get started, we have to address the fact that there are many painting mediums out there that you can use to create a painting. But if you were to ask me which is the best to get started with, I would have to say acrylics. And maybe I'm biased because that is the medium that I started with. But here is why I think that acrylics are the most beginner friendly of the mediums. First of all, they dry very fast, so you can paint over your inevitable mistakes. And you can paint over a canvas or panel as many times as you want and keep reusing it, which you will probably end up doing. There's no need for mineral spirits, and you can clean your brushes without using any of the stinky stuff. I personally find it a more intuitive medium than, for example, watercolor or even oil, but I'm sure a lot of you out there would disagree. But acrylic is versatile in the way that you can use it, so you can actually dilute it with a lot of water and make it have more of a watercolor effect, or use heavy body acrylics and have more texture and have more of a oil painting appearance. So what you will need? Well, in order to make a painting, we need paint. In any art store, you're gonna find for acrylics student grade paint and artist grade paint. And the main difference is that artist grade paints have highest pigment levels, a wider range of colors, and less color shift. And you'll also see this reflected in the price. When I started painting, I was using Liquitex Basics acrylic paint, which is a student grade paint, but now I have upgraded to Golden's heavy body acrylics. With acrylics, you can get a range of consistency. So there are fluid acrylics, which are thinner, and then heavy body acrylics, which are thicker. And honestly, it's just a personal preference thing. Obviously, what you choose will depend on your budget and how much you want to invest, but you could do something like buy student grade paint for the underpainting, so just one or two or three colors to map out the composition and get your values right, and then use artist grade paint on top of that for the actual painting. Now for surfaces. There are a lot of different types of surfaces that you can choose to start painting on. There's canvas, wood, panel, and honestly, this is also just a personal preference. I would recommend just trying them all out and seeing which one you like better. I usually choose my surface depending on what I'm painting or how I'm feeling. Sometimes there's absolutely no rhyme or reason and it's just whatever I have lying around the studio, but you will definitely notice a very big difference working on a very smooth surface like a panel versus something like a linen canvas. Both are nice, just very different. So just give it all a try and experiment. That's the fun of painting after all. Gesso. It is good to be in the practice of priming your surfaces. What gesso does is it seals the surface of your canvas and prevents paints from soaking in. It acts like a barrier where the paint sits on top rather than soaking into the fibers, which gives you richer color and is also better for longevity. You can easily find canvases or panels that are already primed, but I think that it's good to have some gesso on hand just in case. And you can also get white gesso or clear gesso, and I use both for different reasons. For clear gesso, I have used it in the past when I'm painting on wood, and I really want like the natural wood grain to shine through the painting. I don't want to just cover it all with white. So that's where clear gesso comes in. This right here is actually already primed with gesso. This is like a natural color linen canvas, and it's already primed so that you can also let that natural look come through if you want to. I also sometimes like to get a big paintbrush, get a whole big clump of this white gesso and really lay it on thick onto the canvas and really see those brush strokes of the gesso, because I think it's kind of nice when I start painting that I can already see a little bit of texture, a little bit of brush stroke action happening on the canvas already. Try it out. Brushes, brushes, brushes. There are so many different types of brushes. We've got flat, fan, filbert, round, rigger, angled, bright, liner, mop, and more. On top of shape, you can also choose whether you want natural or synthetic brushes. Natural brushes are made from animal hair and synthetic brushes are made from nylon or polyester. In general, natural brushes are really good for textured brush strokes, so very useful in oil painting, and synthetic brushes are kind of good for anything, but particularly water-based mediums like acrylic and watercolor. You can choose the type of brush depending on what you want to paint. So for example, these rigger brushes are great for painting little branches for trees or the riggers on sailboats. And I like to use my angled flats for painting basically anything architecture. Your brush collection will no doubt grow over time. So it's just a matter of trying out and seeing what your favorite one to work with is. I also have an issue of never being able to throw out a paintbrush for the life of me. So even if there is one that is 15 years old and has generations of paint dried onto it, I use it pretty much like a pencil. You can really find uses even for old brushes, so don't be too quick to toss it. And make sure you care for your brushes. And speaking of caring for your brushes, that brings me to the next thing that you're gonna need is something to wash your brushes with. I use the Masters Brush Cleaner and Preserver, and I love this stuff. It's honestly really, really useful. It says cleans oil paint, watercolor, acrylic, and stains, and it's not lying. I use it anytime I have a stain on anything. I use this stuff and it works like a charm. So I would definitely recommend checking this out. It's a little bit pricey to be honest, but it works really well and it allows me to get the most out of my brushes. But I think for acrylic, there's no harm in just using water to wash your brushes and maybe some soap. Honestly, don't quote me on that. I'm always using this stuff, so I don't really know what soap exactly you should be using. I'll look that up and I'll put it on the screen now. Dish soap? Question mark? Another thing that you may find yourself in need of in the future is a way to display your beautiful new paintings online in a professional way, which brings me to the third episode of Brooke Makes Your Art Look Professional. This is a little series that I'm working on with the help of Framer where I get to design some of my fellow artists a professional looking homepage for their artwork. And today the spotlight is on Amber Van Twist. She is an artist from the Netherlands who makes colorful and playful still life paintings for miniatures. She's been studying painting for 5 years and would like to turn her passion into a career. So today I want to design her a website homepage that gives a full-time artist aesthetic. So let's get started. What's awesome about Framer is that they have a ton of templates that you can choose from on their marketplace if you're feeling overwhelmed at the thought of starting from scratch. I'm gonna have a look at the creative website templates, specifically art and design, that are for free, because there ain't nothing wrong with saving a buck where you can. I think that this template would be a great fit for Amber's work, so let's get customizing. As somebody with no coding experience and no time to learn an entirely new skill, I really appreciate how intuitive it is to use Framer. And what's great is that despite being easy to use, it doesn't sacrifice on creative freedom. There are so many possibilities to create something truly unique that represents you as an artist. And I think that this homepage showing Amber's beautiful artwork is looking pretty darn good. Let me know what you think in the comments, and you can check out more of Amber's work on Instagram at MBERVT. So, my fellow creatives, do not be intimidated by the thought of sharing your work online. It can be easy and look great with the help of Framer. So thank you to Framer for sponsoring this video, and you can head to the link in my description for more. Now, let's get back to the studio. So, the next thing you are going to need on your painting journey is a place to actually mix your paint, otherwise known as a palette. You will need a painter's palette, and I use the Masterson's Stawet palette. This is a very old version of that. I don't even know if they make these anymore, but I will give you a quick demo on how it works. So basically it's kind of like a Tupperware where it comes with a lid, and then on the inside you have a sheet of sponge that you will soak and have wet. And then you have this special paper, which then you also soak and you put on top of the sponge. And then you can mix your paints on this paper. And after you're done your painting session, you just go ahead and put the lid back on, and it will keep your paints nice and wet for your next painting session, which is so clutch. I believe that they come in different sizes, and I think that this is the biggest size. I also use it for my oil paints. So here you can see that I have a piece of glass that is duct taped together on the inside of here where my oil paints are living. This also just keeps it from drying out, and it's very, very useful. I would say though that you should be careful when you're using acrylics not to over saturate the sponge, because if there's too much water in there, then it can really dilute the paints. And if that's not what you're wanting to do, then just be aware of that. So these are very handy, and I would highly recommend them for your acrylic palettes because it really saves you a lot of time instead of every painting session having to remix all of your colors and then use them up and scrape them away and yada yada. This way you can really keep all of the colors on your palette and use them again and again. And again and again. Along with a palette, you will also need an easel. And just like all of the art supplies that I have discussed so far in this video, there is a very wide range of possibilities when it comes to easels. I always use my standing easel back here. This is nice because I can adjust the height of it, so I can either stand or sit when I'm painting. I'm usually sitting. But if you don't have an entire corner that you can dedicate to a standing easel in your home, then you can also find these desktop easels, which are very handy. They're super easy to just fold up at the end of any painting session and store away. Don't take up too much space, and there you have it. I actually didn't even have an easel when I started painting, and I would just lay my painting flat on my desk and paint like this, though I would not recommend that as it is not good for the neck. Also, easels I think are something that you can easily find secondhand online. Like just go on any of your local online platforms, for example, Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, what's out there these days? I don't even know. Try that out, and I'm sure you'll be finding something that will suit your needs and be at a better price than finding it new. So next thing you will need is a jar. Any old jar will do that is some sort of vessel that will hold water in it, because you're gonna need water to clean off your brushes between painting, between strokes. If you're using a brown and you want to switch to a yellow, you got to clean it off in a jar of water before you can dip it in the yellow. The only thing I would recommend regarding the vessel in which you hold the paint water is do not have it look remotely similar to the mug you are drinking your tea out of. You know why. Also, tip number 2 for the jar is to exchange the water. If you're having a long painting session and you're constantly dipping your brushes in here, it's gonna get super muddy, and next thing you know, you're dipping your paintbrush in white and it's looking a little on the brown side, and we don't want that. So don't be too lazy. If you find your water is getting super muddy, exchange it out. You won't regret it. Along with your water jar, you are going to need a roll of paper towel or a rag or anything to basically suck out any of that extra water that your paintbrush is holding after dipping it into the jar of water. Because if you're just, swishing that around in there, getting all the paint off, you take it out, there's a ton of water in there now, and if you then dip it in other paint, you're gonna be diluting the paint, and if that's not what you want, that's what this is for. Okay, demo. Demo time. Pretend there's water in here. Swish, 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 swish. Oh no, there's a lot of water. Paper towel. Ready to go. Ready to continue dipping in other paints. I hope you like that demonstration. So yeah, I usually use paper towel. You can use rags, whatever you have lying around, just something that's going to suck in all that extra water that is in your brushes. If you are trying out painting for the first time and you don't know if it's a hobby that's gonna stick, then I would say get whatever materials you want. It's totally understandable if you don't want to invest a lot of money. But if you are trying out painting and you know that you want to stick with it, you know that this is a hobby that you really want to dive headfirst into, I would say that it is honestly worth just going for higher quality materials right off the bat, rather than buying all the lower quality, cheaper stuff first and then having to buy all new higher quality stuff later. I think that it is worth the investment to get higher quality paint, especially because it will make your life easier, and I think that it'll also help you improve faster. So don't be afraid to upgrade when you can. And now for a little bit of advice. I would say that especially if you're starting out painting, go small. Go small or go home. No. What I mean by that is you won't regret using smaller panels and smaller canvases at first, rather than going straight into the big stuff right off the bat. I think that this is a better investment for time and money. It's cheaper to buy smaller surfaces than it is bigger ones, and you can then paint whatever you want. If it doesn't work out, okay, move on to the next thing. It's not so much of an investment in that way too. Do you know what I mean? I talked about this earlier in another video. It's all in also Carol Marine's book, Daily Painting. She does a really good job of explaining this, but basically, my advice, it's better to paint 20 smaller paintings than one ginormous painting if your aim is to be improving and experimenting. Yata yata. Another piece of advice that I did touch on earlier is to take care of your brushes. You will not regret doing that. I know that it is quite annoying at the end of a painting session when you just want to wrap things up and get on with your life, and you think, I'll just clean my brushes tomorrow. Don't do that. Clean your brushes after your painting session. Take care of your brushes. You will save money this way. You will increase the lifespan of said brushes, and they will love you, and you can love them back. Also, if you are at your local art store, you're walking around, you don't know what to get, you're feeling confused, you're feeling conflicted, you're questioning all your decisions in life, don't be afraid to ask the staff. Usually they're very knowledgeable and happy to help you. If they're not, write a bad Google review. Do it. Last and most important piece of advice I have to give is have fun. Such a lame piece of advice, but listen, it's true. I think that when you start doing something for the first time, it can be really frustrating because you don't really know what you're doing yet. There's still, you know, that time where you have to get the hang of things, you have to test out everything. But this can also be a really fun and exciting stage, and painting can be really fun, can be really enjoyable. It can also be relaxing and meditative if you allow it. So just remember that during the process, and if it starts to not be fun, ask yourself why, maybe take a break and come back to it. Just remember to enjoy it, okay? So my friends, I hope that you found this video helpful. I will leave links to the things and materials that I discussed below. Oh my gosh, I forgot one more thing. Bonus material. Bonus material is not necessary. It's not necessary to get this, but I do love this. It's my tube ringer. I almost forgot. But basically this little handy tool allows you to make the most out of your paint tubes. If you're a frugal gal like me, you put it in here like this, crunch it down, and then you just go like this. Look at that. Amazing. That's an extra bonus material for you. I love my two bringer. Like I just said, I will leave the links to all of the materials that I discussed in the description below, so you can reference that if you wish. And if you think that I forgot anything, if you're an expert acrylic painter and you think, wow, Brooke just missed some integral information, go ahead and leave it in the comments. We're all learning here. We're all learning here. Listen, painting is one of the biggest joys of my life, and I know that it's something that I will be doing till the day I die, if I can still hold a paintbrush and see through my eyes. And yeah, it's just one of those things where it can be a lifelong pursuit, which is such a beautiful thing. And it's also never too late to start. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, then like the video, give me a thumbs up. You can consider subscribing to my channel. I post videos about art stuff, artistic life, things like this, things like that. I don't know, you can check out my channel, see if it tickles your fancy, and then perhaps subscribe. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm Brooke Cormier, and I'll see you next time. By the way, this is a hot water bottle girdle pouch, and it's very cute, and it keeps me very warm in the winter season. So if you were wondering what that was the entire video, there you have it. Okay, bye.